Guys, I have a really fun selection of games today. Another 10 little known Amiga titles, and they're an interesting bunch if I say so myself. So let's check them out together. I prefer cats to dogs, which should not come as a surprise as I live with Batman. And he's like a big, hairy, obnoxious and always hungry cat. The only difference between them is that he's much more expensive to keep and care for, but fortunately at the very least he wipes himself and flushes the toilet on his own. So while I care more about cats, they're definitely not man's best friends. Dogs are though, and today's first game is about one, and probably the best example of the man's best friend in action. In Sleepwalker you play as Ralph, the dog, of more or less unspecified race. And you care for a man, or your boy named Lee to be precise, especially that he's a titular sleepwalker. And every night, without fail, he starts walking straight ahead with no care whatsoever. Dreaming and walking, adding to your stress and shortening your potential lifespan from heart-related issues with every minute you're playing. Your task, in each of 6 huge parallax scrolling main levels, is to make sure that nothing happens to your master and that he does not wake up. And let me tell you, it's not going to be easy. Cause anytime he hits anything, he loses a bit of sleep. And if at any point he wakes up from his slumber, you'll lose a life. Since gameplay is in real time, you have to be fast and crafty in caring for your friend, and it's not unusual to find him on the edge of the rooftop, just a step away from an open sewer, mindlessly walking into pools of water, or even going straight into a big and mean bodies. So you have to be a few steps ahead of Lee, trying to find, recognize and neutralize any possible dangers in his way before he gets anywhere remotely near them. While doing so, make sure to come back and check on him often, as he has a unique skill of finding himself in new kinds of unexpected dangers all the time. So even if you think that you've done a great job clearing a path for him, it's good to track back and make sure that he didn't trip on his own foot and landed his head straight into a rusty nail sticking out of an odd random plank. I may be exaggerating a little, but only to make sure that you're on your toes. Despite entirely different kind of presentation and unique gameplay mechanics, the closest gameplay-wise title I could compare Sleepwalker to would be the Brat that we've spoke about in the last video. They're not identical, but they're in the same ballpark. Oh, and they're equally as fun. Troddlers, or as I like to call them, Spider Lemmings, is an arcade puzzle game similar to, well, Lemmings with a mix of Boulder Dash here and there for good measure. Similar but not identical, but nearly as good as these classics though. The gameplay premise and the main objective is very akin to that of Lemmings, to guide a group of silly sausages from where they start to an exit in the form of a single doorway. They all, however, somehow have been bitten by radioactive spiders one by one, and what a coincidence this must have been, right? So they all can also walk on walls and ceilings. But fortunately, that's all they do, walk. And making sure that they're on the right path is your job. Especially that the levels are hardly ever trip from point A on the left to point B on the right, and most often than not the exit is somewhere in the middle of the screen. And you'll have to stretch that brain muscle of yours a lot to get them there safely. If that wasn't enough, there's no special skills, no intricate machinery that could help you, and all you can do is remove and create blocks. And that's what you'll be doing. Placing and destroying them strategically to create a path for the pack of dummies. There's a limit to number of blocks you can use in each stage, and while it may sometimes, especially in later levels, feel a bit restraining, you can always pick up blocks you've placed before and reuse them. So keep that in mind. If that was all, however, Troddlers would be a game worth of 10-15 level tops, and no more. But it has 175 of them. So what makes it interesting then? Well, there's a lot of various dangers and hazards, and you're introduced to them gradually, learning how they work, usually over a couple or so levels each, so that to familiarize yourself with them. In the same time, the game gradually becomes more and more challenging. But wait, that's not all. Then there are Troddlers of different political views, left and right wing, liberals and conservationists, if you will. They cannot mix. Oh boy, how they cannot mix at all. Keep them separate or they will literally kill each other. You are, however, a good boy, a good man, or a woman for that matter too, and you do not pick sides. You pick life and you want to save them all. And you'll have to do so while keeping them as far from each other as possible. Because of all that, Troddlers is not an easy game, but it's really fun nonetheless. And if you manage to find someone to play it with in simultaneous multiplayer, not only gets a tad easier, but also instantly becomes one of the best multiplayer puzzle games ever conceived this side of Milky Way. Nebulus 2 Pogo a Gogo, despite being the most stupidly named game in this video, is actually really fun. It's a second outing, a follow-up to previous well-known fan favorite Nebulus, and sadly a game that was never as well received as the original was. Even though I liked it better than the first one. It's an action puzzler with a story and many new gameplay mechanics. In short, you have to climb to the top of 8 towers taken over by the evil uncle. Yes, you heard that right. Uncle. Fortunately, it's not a literal uncle, but a nickname of an interstellar crime boss. When you reach the top, avoiding many dangers and killing countless hordes of enemies on your way, you gotta topple them all by pressing the self-destruct button. Towers, not the enemies. You follow? When you do, you have to scale the same tower once more to repair it. Cause while the quote-unquote uncle cannot have it for his, I'm sure of it, dark and nefarious schemes, they cannot stay distracted as they house machinery responsible for cleansing air. So yeah, you do the same thing once more for each tower, just to get it rebuilt. So you could say that there's 16 levels overall. Even if your mission is not the easiest out there, you're not defenseless. There's 6 upgrades you can find and they can be a true game changer if used properly. I mean, even as simple as a helipad can be used both offensively or to fly up the tower to scout the dangers ahead, or presents that may contain keys to doors, rockets or many other items crucial for your success. Other than the main stages, there are also 3 bonus levels, one in the air, one on the ground and one, you guessed it right, underwater. And they are more varied and fun than in original. The main gimmick, or trick if you prefer to call it that, of Nebulus is that the towers rotate when you walk around them climbing upwards. So not only it's a nice effect visually speaking, but you have to remember too that while something may not be readily visible at first, it doesn't mean that it's not there on the other side of the tower. Be it a bonus, door or your 15th death in a row. All equally plausible. Nebulus 2 is not easy, but it's a fun game that deserved more love and recognition than it received, sadly being overshadowed by still good but not as good original. Could you imagine Sid Meier's game, any of his titles, really to be obscure? To not reach the heights of popularity and recognition? To only be largely forgotten and known to a handful of players' jam? Well, there is one. It's also an amazing game, same as all of his titles are, but only ever remembered by few that played it. Sid Meier's Covert Action is a unique blend of strategy, action and adventure, all rolled into one. And believe it or not, it's amazing. You play a skilled and deadly free agent hired by CIA to investigate an ongoing criminal and terrorist activities. Why do they outsource rather than use their own? Hard to tell, but if I had to guess, I'd say that they must have heard of your countless heroic acts, how you saved the world and universe on numerous occasions, and how, generally speaking, a stand-up person you are. They just have no one better or even comparable in the slightest skill and experience-wise, that is. Because Manbat seems to be all about those chips and gummy bears these days. So you're either he or she, Maximilian or Maxine Remington respectively, and not many games at the time short of RPGs allowed for a choice of gender, so that's perhaps a small but still welcome addition. Covert Action is divided into missions, they're all time limited and you have to uncover criminal conspiracy details in each before the time runs out. You do so by completing various spy-themed mini-games like combat, cryptography, driving and wiretapping. They're all pretty fun and reward details like locations, names, photos of people involved in crime or connected to the game plot. After each mission you may also receive a promotion, so in a typical for Sid Meier's manner, the game is point-based, meaning that at the end of it, same as in Civilization, you're compared in a score table against named records. Which is kinda pointless if you're the only one playing, cause you're so amazing that you're scoring top points every single time. But it may be important to some other, less skilled gamers, so... For the sake of transparency, I have to make 2 things clear before I talk about our next game. First, Centerbase Science Fiction Simulation, yeah, that's the title, is a game that I've not only never played before, but also never heard of it either. So all I'd say in this little preview will be 100% based on what I've found about it online. And second, and this may be more important to me, personally, my favorite sandwich is BLT. Hold the L and hold the T. Since all that's cleared, let's carry on. Centerbase is Reline Software's second game and a spiritual follow-up to their earlier Oil Imperium, which I actually did play it and enjoyed quite a lot, especially with friends. And Centerbase is very similar conceptually, meaning that you run a business and have to do better than your 3 opponents. This time you're not drilling for oil, but are a ruthless landlord competing for riches taken straight out of innocent tenants' pockets. It kinda hits close to home, so I'm not gonna expand on the theme anymore. The city is composed out of 4 boroughs, each containing 6 housing slots, upon which you can build apartment houses. Erecting buildings is not enough, however, and you have to make sure that your tenants have all the basic necessities that they may require. So water, food and energy, all of which can either be purchased on the market or acquired in respective supply locations via action minigames. Same as in Oil Imperium, it's not really only a business simulation, but most importantly a party game for 4 friends who are bored with each other and seek to end those friendships as fast as possible. So naturally you have a whole set of various shady activities and sabotages that you can unleash on others. You can spread rumors about them, hire thugs to steal goods from them, or even straight up send robotic attack force to occupy their real estate, effectively bringing it under your wing/protection. and many other things in between. If Centerbase is at least half as good as Oil Imperium was, and on the first glance it looks even more interesting if I'm to be honest, then it can be hell of a fun party game to play with friends. Not as much against CPU, I'm afraid. Tale of Rogue Trooper is as old as the time itself. We're somehow sadly always drawn towards conflict, with powers shifting, and those who don't have it fight to grasp it and keep it for themselves only. Rogue Trooper, despite only being a silly potato of a game, is all about us. Humans, Earthlings, broken biological machines with a faulty genetic programming that's causing us to never be satisfied with what we have and push to get more, to amass, to rule. We suck. Rogue Trooper takes place on a planet called New Earth. Not new, but new. NU. Anyway, the planet is divided into two opposing factions, those that live in the north, and you guessed it right, those that inhabit the south. And they cannot stand each other, clashing for the domination on regular basis. Until eventually, after eons of fighting, what's left of New Earth cannot be called anything else other than the barren wasteland. You play as southern POW stranded inside the northern base. The game is composed out of 4 levels, each telling a different part of your escape and return home story. In first, which is your typical action platformer, you punch and then shoot hundreds of enemies trying to find your army gear, evidence of who betrayed the south, and the ship to escape the base with. Second and third levels play similar to each other. You're inside the ship in a third-person view, first chasing Rogue General Traitor and shooting him down, and then coming back to your southern base through toxic hallucinogen biological weapon used by North on southern lands. North, it seems, never heard of Geneva Accords. And finally, in the last and fourth level, you're back in your base, just as it is being raided by Northerners. It's also an action platformer, same as the first level was, and you have to deliver evidence of betrayal to the High Command, while obviously killing all the baddies on your way. Rogue Trooper is based on a comic book of the same name. I've never read or even heard of it, but the game itself is actually quite fun. The titular Rolling Ronny is a clown on roller skates. I know, terrifying. And it's a typical arcade action platformer similar to Mario or Sonic, with some novelty added to this long-running tired genre formula. The game is divided into 9 big, two-way scrolling levels in which all you really have to do is get enough cash to be able to buy a bus ticket to get to the next one. So money works kinda like rings in Sonic or coins in Mario. How you collect it though is different, cause it doesn't just lie around waiting to be picked up, you have to earn it. And you do so either by shooting baddies or working, by delivering parcels all around the city. So it's simple, right? Kill some enemies, drop some packages, bada beep, bada boom, Bob's your uncle and you're done. Not really. Because you have to manage finances responsibly. And that's what everyone wants in their games, a lesson on assets management, right? So while saving up for a ticket, you also have to make occasional purchases of upgrades to be able to traverse through the levels safely. You can do so in shops, obviously, and there's always one somewhere in each level. And they're surprisingly well supplied, offering super high jumps, bombs, enemy freeze gadget in the form of rotten stinky cheese, and couple more. They are all humorously named, and it's a pretty blunt type of humor, kinda like the one you can expect from this very channel, so you should feel right at home playing the game. Rolling Ronny's graphics are decent, or really good, if you consider that it runs on an Amiga with just a half meg of RAM, and overall it's a pretty fun and unique platformer, that while feeling familiar and like something you've played many times before also add its own blend, own flavor to the formula, not to feel too stale. And the fact that its difficulty curve is just perfect, slowly and gradually increasing in challenge without any sudden spikes of it, makes it a title ideal for both young and more mature audiences, if they're not afraid of clowns, that is. Rubicon is really fun. I should really end this preview here and just let you watch it for the next 2 minutes. But if I did so, it would kinda broke the whole fair use doctrine of law by not providing any commentary or content on top of the video from another channel. It would be just a replaying of it. So basically theft. So, I'm afraid that you're stuck with me and Man-Bat. I'm Batman. Alright buddy, Batman. You know I get those two confused cause I could never figure out which half of you is man and which is Bat. Is it top or bottom? Hello? Well, it seems he's ignoring me, so let's get back to Rubicon. It's an action-packed shooter platformer that's unlike virtually anything else you've seen on the Amiga, or most other platforms of the time for that matter. At first glance it may look like a Contra or Metal Slug-like game, and while it's not a far-fetched assumption, it's not really the case. Simply put, it's a boss rush type of a game where you fight with plethora of completely different looking and requiring different strategies bosses, intertwined with short action platforming sections. It may actually very well be one of, if not the first boss rush type of game to ever exist, as the genre really started gaining traction in 2000s, mainly thanks to Shadow of the Colossus, and before that I don't think I can really recall any other games than this one representing it. Oh well, such is life. Someone will most likely drop a name or two in the comments that I just somehow totally forgot about, and there are obvious examples of it. So, the bosses, they are not thematically connected in any way, and you may very well be fighting huge skeletons, dinosaurs, tanks, robots, alien queens, and anything in between. There's a lot of them, and they're all fun. I think I said that already, but it's worth pointing out once more that Rubicon is surprisingly addicting for a title that's perhaps first of its kind. Graphics are pretty good, though not groundbreaking in any way, and sounds are a-okay too. But gameplay, which you most likely figure out already, is really cool, and that's what's best about it. So if you're in a mood for something new, even today, and really obscure, there's hardly any better on the Amiga. Slayer is an American thrash metal band known for such hit songs as Angel of Death or Raining Blood. I only know them by their name, but here you go. A little trivia knowledge that you may find useful one of those days when you're slumdog millionairing into riches. Think of me and this video then. And make sure to come back to it and leave a like and subscribe. That's all I ask for. Maybe share it, cause you know, you'll be rich beyond belief and that's just a click or two for you and the world to me. Okay, let's get back to our scheduled programming. Sorta. Slayer is horizontally scrolling shoot 'em up of a bit questionable quality that was much better offering on a C64 than it is on the Amiga. Don't get me wrong, it's not a bad or broken game in any way imaginable, it's just so mid, so average that if you were to put it in between 5 or 6 other shooters of the time, it would have disappeared between them forever to never be seen again. What I'm trying to say here is that nothing in it stands out. Everything's genre standard and what you expect to find in a shooter. Nothing more, nothing less. And for some this may be enough and all they really need, and that's cool too. But if you've played as many games as I have, you'd probably appreciate the novelty and something that is generally not seen often in a game design as much as I do. Still, despite not raising eyebrows, dropping jaws or ballsacks for that matter either, Slayer is a very competent shooter if you want to do just that. Shoot mindlessly thousands upon thousands of enemies in space going from left to right, killing anything and everything that's in your way. So if that's what you're after today, or just need to get your mind off things, daily troubles or such, it can be a useful escape. Also, it has the same name as aforementioned and unknown to me band, but given what's written about them in Wikipedia, they're a pretty big thing in metal scene. Shu-Shi is a pretty fun, if a bit uneven and technically unimpressive Amiga action platformer that is most interesting because it actually should never be. Wait, what? Why, you may wonder? Well, it originally released on Atari ST and then the devs ported it to the Amiga. Pretty standard fare for the time, no surprises here really. But then they've sent it to all the big gaming mags to get it reviewed, to get some public interest going for it, hype as we call it today. Also, nothing out of ordinary. And that's it. Apparently, even though it was feature completed, ready to be mass-produced and sold, the developers lost the original discs with a source code and binaries. Yep, that's how important is good backup, kids. I would have inserted a sponsored backup software out here, but since no one in the right mind would want to advertise on this channel, just imagine me doing it in the cringest way possible. As a result of all that, Shu-Shi officially never released on the Amiga. Luckily, a disc with a working copy was found sometime later, and now the game is available online for download. So you can experience what could have been, but haven't, in 1992. Shu-Shi is divided into 6 worlds, each built out of 2 smaller sections. First, outdoor, where you travel on foot, platforming your way through hundreds of enemies, collecting pickups and coins that then can be spent in shops for upgrades. In second section, you fly on a cloud to get to the end stage boss and defeat him. Overall, you have to kill 6 of those bosses and collect items that they drop to save your king, whose health, according to game story, is quickly deteriorating and only those pickups can save him. While story is not very creative or captivating at all, it's a platformer, so all we should really care about is gameplay. And it's okay. Yep, just that. You're not gonna write home about it and you're not gonna be instantly put off of it either. It's an average action platformer with a very spiky difficulty curve, which is probably the only annoying thing about it. It is, however, worth tracking down, if not for anything else than just to see a game that should not exist. How did you like today's games? I honestly feel that it was an interesting episode. But since I cannot say anything else here really, because Batman edited the video and he would absolutely destroy me with his if I did, I gotta ask you, what do you think about it? Let me know in the comments below. If you liked the video, hit those like and subscribe buttons below. If you didn't, well then there's thumbs down there too. But I suppose you wouldn't have persevered up to this point if you really didn't. Around 60% of you are not subscribed and there's currently no way of knowing if YouTube will decide to recommend you the next episode or not, other than subscribing and hitting that bell, that is. And when you hit that bell, whenever the new video is out, YouTube will actually send you a small and friendly notification about it, so you wouldn't miss it. If you'd like to support the channel, Patreon and YouTube memberships are a great way of doing so. They will help me release better content and also they get first dibs on all new videos before they're publicly accessible on YouTube. If you can't or don't want to do that though, likes and subscribe traps are great too. I would like to take a moment here and thank all the YouTube creators from whose videos short bits were taken to serve as a background to my commentary. They're amazing and stars among the retro community. You will find names of their channels at the top of the screen when their footage is running and also in the video description below. For me though, this is all, so have a good one and I'll see you next time. Peace.